What's up YouTube, VETOED here, bringing you a video on the Halo 5 weapon tuning test. There's a lot to talk about, I have a lot of thoughts to share, and obviously I don't want this to be too long of a video because, you know, no one likes a super long video where I just ramble and ramble. So I'll try as much as possible to keep it short, but there is a lot to say, so I'll just hop right into it. First and foremost, everything got nerfed. I'm pretty sure that this entire update consists of nothing but nerfs, except for active camouflage, which has been improved to a pretty slight extent. But aside from that, every weapon mentioned in the update has been nerfed in one way or another. And the main method of nerfing them was adding a random spread, at least from what I can tell, it is random and blue to most weapons. The VR bullets go like left, right, center, whatever the VR feels like doing at the time. The bullets do not necessarily go where you're aiming, especially at range. And the purpose behind it, or at least 342's logic behind it, was to reduce the effectiveness of precision weapons at range. The BR, the carbine especially, have been hit pretty hard. The DMR is kind of like the opposite. The DMR up close has become weaker. It's not necessarily weaker, it's the same damage, but it's a bit harder to use. Less aim assist, I want to say. I don't really know exactly what they changed. The change does not go in detail. They're not very specific. I think that's kind of on purpose. Actually, I have no idea. Diversity, why don't you just go in detail and tell us exactly what you changed? So we actually like have a clue what's going on. We can have like this proper back and forth discussion. You know, just let us know what's happening, right? Anyways. So pretty much like I said, the majority of precision weapons have been nerfed quite significantly. It's pretty hard not to notice. A lot of people feel like it's blank shots. No, it's not blank shots. It's just random spread. Your bullets do not go exactly where you're aiming. That's just kind of unfortunate. In my opinion, that is honestly the worst possible way to balance precision weapons in any game, but especially for Halo, because we know, like, based on history, based on the past, with Halo 2 pre-patch, freaking Halo 3, Reach with Bloom, we know that random spread does not work on weapons. People do not like it. It's frustrating. It's random, inconsistent. It's the polar opposite of skill. Halo 5 is played for hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. It is such a big focus on competitive, and yet we see this change that just goes right against the competitive mindset. The skillful person might not win every time because the freaking gun is more random now. The bullets don't go where you expect them to. How does that make sense? Having bullets that don't go where you're aiming in a first-person shooter goes directly against the notion of skill. I'm just confused as to why 343 went back on something that we established didn't work in Halo 3. Halo 3 is like the best example I can give because it is like still a fresh example. As far as like competitive goes, it was pretty much like the peak of Halo esports with MLG involved and whatnot. And MLG was in charge of settings at the time, right? They took over everything from maps to just like individual settings, player traits, and they made a change. MLG settings made a change specifically to reduce the impact of random spread so that it was more consistent. They took the damage, upped it to 110%. And while that did not change the time to kill, it was still a 4-shot kill. Same thing every time. It made it so like the random spread was less of a factor because it took 10 bullets to kill. It did not need the 2 extra bullets that tend to go more off target than the first one. For some reason, we went back on that. And I need to show you, I have this example. I went out of my way. I went to MCC, recorded some footage of how bad it can be. And just look at the variance between the time to kill if you have a lot of random spread being a factor. Just take a look at how inconsistent it is. Varies so much, and that's pretty much how it is right now in Halo 5. Your bullets might miss for no reason at all, and there's nothing you can do about it except just sit there and being confused. And people will just be like, oh, let's blame the servers suck, that's what it is. Freaking bad connection, whatever else. But no, it's just the gun not working the way it should. So right off the bat, get rid of the random spread. If you want to reduce the range at which weapons are useful, just reduce the aim assist, reduce the reticle range. You need to be closer for your reticle to lock onto people. Make it so, you know, the BR originally in Halo 5 has vertical recoil, and if you shoot from like an extreme range, let's say like the length of a Warzone map or something, or a big team battle map, their recoil will get in your way and you want to be able to cross map easily. Why not just adjust that to a scale of an arena map or something? You know, just increase the vertical spread a little bit more so it's predictable. People know exactly how to counter it. It's a skill factor. Always the same result every time. It's competitive, and we still get the same result that we want. Less range, but it has to be consistent, predictable in order to be competitive. Right now it is not competitive. It's the exact opposite of that. Now, that's it for the BR. The carbine. For those of you guys don't know, like I said, the carbine was also affected by that. Just a bunch of random spread for no reason on a single shot weapon. Potentially the worst approach to nerfing the carbine. The problem was that it was too accurate at range, it was too good at descoping people, too good at killing, people couldn't do anything against it. All you have to do is just reduce the damage. So that way it's still good at suppressing people, but in order to finish them off you need some help. It's easier to escape from it, but you don't want to engage a carbine still. Don't put random spread. What is that supposed to do? You just get confused. It's not even like the reticle shows it. That's the worst part. You put random spread, but it's not like there's no like reticle bloom that shows you what the hell is going on. You just assume you're getting blank shots or something, and it's so frustrating from the player's perspective to just miss shots that should connect. I don't know. I don't want to just ramble on that too long. I said what I needed to say about the BR, the carbine, the precision weapons. Roll back anything that involves random spread. Just reduce the aim assist instead. Reduce the red reticle range. Make it harder, not more random. Now, let's talk about the Gunfighter Magnum. It went from shooting straight, having mediocre range. It had the worst range out of every precision weapon in the game. And for some reason, it got nerfed. Under the pretense that it was too freaking accurate at range, which it wasn't. Obviously, this was a blanket nerf to just accommodate the fact that it was becoming a starting weapon, which makes sense. You know, that's fine. At least I would kind of like knowing what's the actual reason, not just make an excuse like, oh yeah, it was too good at range. No, it wasn't. It was actually like the worst precision weapon in the game. And now it's even worse somehow. Now it has lower aim assist, which was freaking horrendous to begin with. Lower reticle range, which was also freaking horrendous to begin with. A weaker zoom, I'm pretty sure. And there's an insane recoil pattern that you cannot even consider trying to control. Like, that is some CSGO type of shit, and you're supposed to control that versus someone who's strafing, thrusting, crouching. That is just like, no, that's not gonna happen, especially not with a controller. Like, it would be hard to do on Counter-Strike with a mouse. Forget on a freaking controller playing Halo where people are just flying, soaring, thrusting, and crouching, and ground pounding. Not to mention, the time to kill is just pretty mediocre on it. As a matter of fact, I'm also pretty sure the swap time has been lowered, so the Gunfighter Magnum is actually worse than it used to be in every possible way. Which is fine, since it was supposed to be like the alternate starting weapon. You're kind of like your sidearm you resort to when you're out of bullets. I understand that. Just the recoil is nonsense. That's just way overboard. That's pretty much all I have to say about the Gunfighter BR or whatnot. To me, these changes seem like they're trying to make Halo 5 more like Halo 3, but stuff like the random spread, the BR just shooting whatever it wants, wherever it wants, was actually the worst part about Halo 3. No one who looks back at Halo 3 and is like, oh yeah, I love the way my BR didn't shoot straight. That was so good. No, no one says that. That's not what made Halo 3 great. If you think it is, you're mistaken. But I do respect the attempt at making the BR feel like a throwback weapon. And if that's what 342 is looking for, if you want it to be a throwback weapon, why not just take the Halo 2 BR in the game right now? You know, the H2 BR in Halo 5. Why not just use that weapon and just reduce the aim assist, reduce the red reticle range, so it's like actually hard to use, because right now it's like the easiest gun in the game probably. If you use that, you have like this throwback looking weapon, feeling, sounding weapon, you know, it's like a perfect Halo 2 throwback, Halo 3, whatever you're going for. And all you have to do is just lower the aim assist, and it works exactly the way you want it to. Slower fire rate, and just, it's perfect. But I don't really know what 342 is actually going for, so that's why I can't really, like, it's kind of hard to recommend things when I don't know what's going on, right? I think that's all I have to suggest, really. The other weapons, though, the power weapons that have been nerfed, I'm in favor of a lot of those nerfs. I think for the most part, those are good, except maybe the railgun. And I agree the railgun was really good to begin with. I was in support in the nerf, I still am. But the way it is right now in the place is too much, in my opinion. I want to say it takes about 1.5 seconds to charge a railgun. I haven't counted the frames, but it takes a long time. It's slower than a majority of the weapons in terms of time to kill. I think it's a bit too long. The railgun should be somewhere between the original charge time and where it is right now in the test playlist. I think that would be the good middle ground. Everything else is pretty much fine the way it was handled, though. I think that's all I have to say, really. Oh, how could I forget? I almost made the same mistake as 343 did. I almost forgot about the automatic weapons. What the hell happened? The storm rifle is the same. That was the #1 complaint. The storm rifle and the splinter grenades and the brute plasma rifle. Those are like the top 3 most ridiculous weapons in a game that you can find in Arena. And those weapons are all untouched. How did you pull that off? The splinter grenades? Are you kidding me? Pull left trigger, free kill? What? What are you doing? Nerf those. Storm rifle, same thing. I had a game where we're just dominating with a storm rifle and plaza. No one could stop me because the BR is so weak now. They never stood a chance, and I just obliterated them. The nerfs to the assault rifle, the SMG, they were so weak, so insignificant. All it did was add more initial bloom, and that was supposed to make it more skillful, when in fact, it made it less skillful, because now you can't get away with tapping the trigger as much, so that had the opposite effect, which is just kind of ironic. If you want it to be more skillful, put more bloom at the end when you hold the trigger down, not at the beginning. Reward tap firing so it's precise. People just hold the trigger down will just get destroyed by people who tap fire and are accurate with their gun. That seems pretty simple to understand, but for some reason it was approached backwards. You don't want more initial bloom. No. You want your bullets to go where they're supposed to when you tap fire. It's the opposite. You should put more bloom at the end when you hold the trigger down. that way it's more skillful. But even then, I don't expect too much out of autos. We're not there yet at all. They're still so good. Anyways, I don't want to ramble for too long. This is already turning into a long video. This feels more like a rant than anything else, but I think it needed to be said right now. This whole thing is kind of all over the place. I hope it can be addressed and changed for the better. I mean, this is a test after all. There's still a fair amount of time to go, but this is just strange right now. Oh well, those were my thoughts on the weapon tuning test that is currently going on in Halo 5. I think we're just at the end of week 2 right now. There's 2 more weeks left, I believe. So be sure to leave your own feedback, discuss in the comments if you want to add something. If you disagree with something, I'll be glad to debate with you. Hit me up on Twitter, whatever. But I hope this made sense. And if it didn't, feel free to ask me some questions. Other than that, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.